Good afternoon. Thelma Ponferrada, your chair for this afternoon session on curriculum design and content. This is one of the 3 concurrent sessions for this afternoon under the theme Organization and Structure of Judicial Training Institute. We have 3 speakers for this session. In this session, there will be discussion on the review and reform efforts of judicial institutions. These speakers will discuss how judicial reform is changing their respective systems, contents, and methods of training judges. Before we proceed to the session proper, may we have some house rules first. For security reasons, we enjoin everyone to wear IDs throughout the duration of the conference. We request everyone to please switch off mobile phones or to keep the mobile phones in silent mode. To adhere to our program schedule, we will do away with the introduction of the speakers. The profile of the speaker is included in the conference kit. We also have time allotment for speakers so that we can adhere to our program schedule. Our speakers are requested to strictly observe their time allotment. For this session, the speakers are given 25 minutes for their presentations. To help speakers keep within the time limit, salutations and acknowledgements may be dispensed with. When 5 minutes remain, we will flash the cue card to signal the need to wind up the presentation, and after 5 minutes, another cue card will be flashed to signal the end of the time allotted. There will be open forum after the presentations of the 3 speakers, and question slips are available in the conference kit. Members of the Secretariat are on hand to receive their written questions. Thank you. May I now call on the Honorable Maria Filomena Dising of the Court of Appeals to deliver her paper on the curriculum review of the Philippine Judicial Academy.
I stand in front of everyone today to report on the reformulation and review of the curriculum of the Philippine Judicial Academy. I speak as a member of the faculty and as a member of the subcommittee which reviewed the curriculum and came up with the present formulation. In 1996, the Philippine Judicial Academy was established by the Supreme Court through an administrative issuance. The charge was for the formulation and the implementation of a continuing program of judicial education, not only for justices and judges, but likewise for court personnel and lawyers. The Enabling Legislative Act was passed 2 years later. Under Section 3 of that congressional mandate, the PhilJus curriculum for judicial education was supposed to upgrade first, legal knowledge, second, moral fitness, third, probity, fourth, efficiency, and fifth, capability. In 2014, the Chief Justice of the Philippine Supreme Court, as the chairperson of the PhilJus Board of Trustees, that's the policy-making body of our local Judicial Training Institute, called for the review of the PhilJus curriculum, it being the 20th year from the establishment of our Judicial Academy. And she had several pointers for the committees to undertake the review as a guide. In the creation of the subcommittee, as you will see, these were the tasks assigned to us. to develop first a strategic training plan based on the needs assessment of the members of the judiciary and court personnel, and second, to develop and adopt new methods of judicial education in relation to emerging trends and technological advances. And third is to revise and formulate programs to address the distinct educational needs and specific skills of the members of the judiciary and court personnel. We were guided by the thought piece of the Chief Justice, which envisioned changes in both the content and methodology. And using this thought piece, after a training needs assessment was done, we came up, the subcommittee, came up with a 5-point approach. The first being judicial education by career stages. The second, blended learning methodology. The third, a fixed and synchronized program calendar. The fourth, learning needs assessment and program evaluation. And the fifth is training for court personnel. I will discuss each of these as we go along. But first, the shift in this, in the approaches that we are adopting in the present curriculum was centered on the outcomes-based education approach. We have shifted from the traditional mode of just offering our audiences what they wanted to what they needed, because it's not every time that the wants and the needs coincide with each other. So we are adopting a learner-centered approach, that is the outcomes-based approach. We want to deliver a package, and we start with the objective. What kind of judge, what kind of court personnel is needed in our context? And we work all the way to getting that by looking at the content and the methodology. And of course, we have the evaluation at the end of it all. In this shift, we started with a training needs assessment. We did this first by doing a survey. We sent out written survey forms to selected stakeholders, a total of 1,580 respondents, ranging from justices of our collegiate courts, that being the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the Anti-Graft Court, which we call the Sandigan Bayan, and the Court of Tax Appeals, and also from the judges. We also had surveys of court personnel. We had survey forms filled up by members of the business community, and likewise by those from the academia and from civil society, from non-governmental organizations. And these were the survey objectives and design that we followed. First, of course, the assessment of the effectiveness of PhilJA in the past 20 years that we have been in existence in accomplishing its mandate to provide judicial education. Second, the identification of the required substance or content and methodology for PhilJA training programs and activities in the future. Third, the impact of existing PhilJA training programs and activities. Have we been achieving our goals? Fourth, the determination of the level of trust and confidence in the judiciary, that being one of the ultimate objectives. And then training level needed by the judges and court personnel, and then the assessment of judicial skills and disposition in relation to evaluation, and the last are the continuing challenges and issues. These are some of the survey highlights that we noted. First, on the topic of the assessment of the effectiveness of PhilJA in accomplishing its mandate to provide judicial education, the general consensus of all the stakeholders was that PhilJA had fulfilled its mandate to be a source of knowledge and materials and resources. But in the discussions of the subcommittee after we gathered this we gathered the survey results, we went beyond this using the OBE framework and said that PhilJA cannot just be a source of knowledge, it must also provoke questions, issues, and challenges and knowledge relating to those new challenges. So that is one thing that we set up on the board as a major objective under the revised curriculum. The second topic was the identification of the required substance or content and methodology for future PhilJA training programs and activities. Naturally, our survey respondents each had their own suggestions and proposals regarding the content. Like justices have their own specializations that they had to think of, as with our trial court judges and court personnel. And some of them are in the survey highlights, copies of which are part of the kit and the CD or the USB given to you. And then the third is the impact of existing filter training programs and activities. And it will be seen here that most of the respondents were still thinking traditionally. They were just thinking of the Judicial Academy as a source of fixed knowledge, like knowledge of what laws should be applied and the traditional way of applying these laws. There was not much reliance, or there was not much demand for context, social context, and other developing concerns. And so this is the other major objective that we put on the board that we wanted to include in the reformulated curriculum. We wanted the judges, the justices, and the court personnel to think differently, to think of their duties of adjudication and delivery of justice beyond the traditional mode of just ruling on the facts based on the law that is before them. These are some of the survey highlights. In the first column, you will see that in the determination of the level of trust and confidence in the judiciary, we both have positives and negatives. The positive would be that there is a general agreement that the courts are accessible to the public. The other one is that at least 47% of the general public, close to 50, trust the local judiciary. But then the negative is that a high majority of the survey respondents were of the opinion that the courts are not free from influence and external control. And also 77% disagree that courts timely dispose of cases. I want everybody in the room to know that in the Philippines, congestion and case delay is the norm because of the high court dockets, and that is the context in which you should take those statistics. And then in the training level needed by the judges and court personnel, we determined after reviewing all the individual responses that we gathered that there is a need to do a training by levels or career stages, and that is the very first of the 5-point approach that we have adopted. And then lastly, in the assessment of judicial skills and disposition, we have agreed on taking on a more scientific and objective manner of assessing the effectivity of these approaches and methodologies. So these are some of the challenges and issues that were raised, generally a conclusion. And you will see that from the point of view of those who sit on the bench, the concerns were more skills centered. But from the point of view of the court users, the concerns were more on the pace of the disposition of the cases and the transparency in the processes, as well as the accountability of the judicial officers that are in charge of the handling and disposition of the cases. After the surveys, the written surveys, we undertook step 2, which was a focus group discussion type of assessment of needs, where we held individual focus group discussions with the different stakeholders. We invited representatives from each of these groups, the business community, the academic, civil society, and of course from the judges, the justices, and the court personnel, and we sat down with them and we presented to them the results of the survey in the form of a validation. We asked them to further comment and discuss the results that we gathered from the surveys. And so we had first a presentation and then an assessment, and then we solicited recommendations for future programs and methodologies. And these were some of the highlights of the focus group discussions. Most had to do with a shift from the traditional methodologies that we have been adopting, which number one would be a lecture type presentation, and more hands-on interactive presentations. as far as the challenges and issues were concerned, one of these was the readiness and responsiveness of the PhilJA curriculum to be part of, or to go in step with the ASEAN integration, which we are seeing has already started now. And then of course, the emphasis also on values and ethics education or training. These are very, very specific to the stakeholders that we sat with. As you will see, still traditionally thinking, the respondents were focusing more on substantive law and jurisprudence, which is what we want them to think beyond of, no, and not just to be confined to that. And then the court personnel, which was a group that apparently not consistently addressed in all the jurisdictions participating today, at least in our local judicial academy. They've always been part of the mandate of the PhilJA. So they formed one group of stakeholders, and we sat down with them for their specific needs assessment also. And throughout, the justices, the judges, and the court personnel, the creation of manuals, as was mentioned earlier, was a resonating theme for consistency and uniformity in the application of processes and also in the development of skills. Of course, lawyers were also a big part of the consultations because they are the premier court users. And as far as the lawyers are concerned, of course, one of the repeated or constant concerns or challenges would be the consistency in the actions of the judicial officers, because they get to compare actions from branch to branch or station to station or jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So that is one of the things that maybe the manuals for the judicial officers can address to at least give an answer to the concerns of the lawyers. And then this was how the Chief Justice, as the chair of the Board of Trustees of the PhilJA, summarized the thrust of the new curriculum. That it may be considered that part of developing one's judicial career is not to be a generalist, knowledgeable in all fields of law, but mastering none, but that one may pursue passionately a chosen field, even as a judge. Thus, PhilJA could consider preparing its curriculum to allow for judges to become better at chosen fields, even as it continues to strengthen judges who choose to remain generalists. And in line with this, we adopted the first approach, which is judicial education by career stages. Now, in the country, by legislation or by law, we have what we call the Judicial and Bar Council. The Judicial and Bar Council vets the applicants to judicial positions in our country. So all nominations and applications pass through our Judicial and Bar Council. In the law, we have what we call the Judicial Career Enhancement, or the judicial program, judicial training program that is required if you are supposed to qualify for a judicial position. But that requirement of the law has until date not yet been required by the Judicial and Bar Council as a pre-qualification, although it is already required by law for at least a decade already. And so the thrust is now to lobby that be realized already, that going through that judicial preparation program, educational preparation program, and qualifying under that test be already strictly applied. So that will be the first step. But because this is judicial education by career stages, we envision that continuing judicial education should earn credits or points for future applicants to judicial position, or those applying for promotions, so that you get an extra merit if you undertake or take up further judicial education credits. And this should be taken into consideration by the Judicial and Bar Council in vetting applicants for other or higher positions in the judiciary. So this is an example of what we are speaking of. You start as a beginner, the judicial, with what we call the pre-judicature program. That is the program I was just mentioning a while ago, which should be required or is already required by law, but which is not yet strictly imposed by our Judicial and Bar Council. And then if you qualify and are appointed to any judicial position, you are mandated to undergo what we call an orientation for newly appointed judges. Now, the orientation is basically a beginner's level orientation where you are given not just a substantive law, beginner's level lectures and workshops, but you're also given beginner's level skills training. Okay, so that is the first after you qualify for a position in the judiciary. But then you go up a stage and you have what we call the Judicial Career Enhancement Program, the level 1. No? We usually administer this within the second year of your appointment to the judiciary because we have determined or predetermined that on the second year you need updates. So, but this goes beyond just an update on substantive law and procedure. We also add skills training, but beyond the beginner's level skills training that we did during the orientation for new judges. So that is why we're calling this judicial education by stages. No? Every time you go up, you're supposed to receive a different type of program or be under a different type of program and receive a different kind of training. There should be no repetition at all. And as you go through these stages and higher, you're supposed to also be given extra credits if you apply for promotion or if you seek a different position in the judiciary. That is the whole idea of this judicial career education by stages. Now the second one, the second approach that we have adopted is methodology for program delivery, which we call blended learning. This should include a variety of delivery formats, which should be explored and utilized based on the needs of the participants and the goals of the program. Applying the blended learning approach, the new programs will be employing more than one training method to train on one subject. So we're moving away from the delivery of just straight out lectures. What we do mostly now is have interactive learning. We have workshops where the participants do not just listen but actually speak and discuss the issues that are related to the subject matter that's being discussed. And we encourage our faculty to just give out their materials at the start of the sessions or way before we start the sessions, before the program, so that the participants can already study them before they come to the sessions, and so that there will be more interactive discussions during the sessions where the participants can really participate because they have already assimilated the materials. We also have online programs that are up and running, which include examinations. And the others involve, of course, focus group discussions, like for example, in the continuing education of our justices of collegiate courts, we prefer to have focus group discussions rather than have people lecture to them because of their stature already. They can be considered experts already in their own fields. And then the next, one very good sample of our blended learning approach is our orientation for newly appointed judges, where we have, for example, judges, newly appointed judges being trained on how to handle courtroom situations. So we have what we call moot court scenarios where they get to preside over a mock trial. And we don't just expose them as judges also. Sometimes we make them act out the role of a lawyer where they get to raise the objections. And sometimes we also make them sit as witnesses. So that is an example of our blended learning approach. And then we have the third approach, which is the fixed and synchronized program calendar. It is a problem in the Philippines. Earlier, we were going through the principles, the proposed draft principles. And the way that it was formulated, I wanted to raise it because it said that we should have time to get involved in judicial training. Judges should have time to get involved. But you see, in the Philippines, in our context, that should be worded, we should be given time to get involved in judicial training because of the number of cases that our trial judges handle, even our collegiate court justices. We simply don't have time. As much as we want to be involved in judicial training, we don't have time for it if we are not going to give time. Like if I lecture as part of the faculty, I have to file a leave. I have to take a leave of absence from the Court of Appeals where I sit. So we're not being given time to be really, really involved in judicial training because that's the reality of our context. So that's something that maybe the drafters of the principle should also take into consideration. It's not that we don't want to be involved in having a judge-led judicial training, but it's that we simply are not given time to be as involved as we want to be, okay? So here, we have a fixed and synchronized program calendar because what happens is, if we have a training, for example, one whole week, this week, we take our judges out of their courtrooms and the trials in all the cases that they are handling are reset and postponed. So maybe the next setting will be next month, but in courts which are really clogged, sometimes the next setting will be in 3 months' time or in half a year's time. So that's the reality here. But then it's not the judge who gets to go on a training. Sometimes it's the prosecutor, but the prosecutor's schedule is different. So maybe the prosecutor's training is next month, then we have another resetting of the case, another 3 months, another 6 months waiting. And then you have the public attorney. So that's still another challenge and problem. That's why we have the fixed and synchronized program calendar where we envision that all the actors in every case will have their trainings in the same month as much as possible, if possible on the same dates, in a multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder training. And this is our sample calendar up there on the board. And then the last one is the learning needs assessment and program evaluation, which of course will be the base or the anchor for our outcomes-based education until and unless we know how effective our trainings and our programs are, we wouldn't know how to move forward. And so starting with the needs assessment, at the very end, we need to do an evaluation of how effective this will be. And so our envisioned assessment would be written at point of the program administration or conduct. And then we have like periodic assessments after. So 3 months after, we do another evaluation. In the 3 months time after you attended a particular seminar, which of the skills that you were taught have you already applied? And how effectively have you applied it? And then after 6 months, we do another assessment. And then after a year, we do another assessment. Are you getting better over time? Or do we need a follow-up already after a year? Do we need enhancement after a year or after 6 months? So that's the objective of the new learning needs assessment and program evaluation. And overall, if you put this together, this is what we envision to have. The enhanced field curriculum will not only be multidisciplinary, but it will also involve all the arms of the judiciary. You have the Supreme Court, you have the Office of the Court Administrator, you have the Administrative Office, you have the Judicial and Bar Council, and you have all the courts and the court personnel, as well as all the court stakeholders playing a part in the implementation of the new PhilJA curriculum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Dean. To deliver the second paper on China's judges' education and training reform, practice and future innovation, we have, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Xiaomin Li, Vice President, National Judges College, Supreme People's Court, People's Republic of China.
Dear Thomas A. Conference, dear my new friends and my old friends and my colleagues. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you for the carefully organized and thoughtful arrangement of the Philippines. And please forgive me, forgive my poor English. The theme of my speaking is China's judges' education and training reform, practice, and future innovation. There are 5 parts of my speaking. I'll introduce you to following order. Introduction to the China Nation Judges College, targets and messages of China's judicial reform, in the impact of judicial reform on the system, content, and the method of judges' education and training, methods and improvements in Chinese judges training, the prospect of Chinese judges training. Introduction to the China National Judges College, orientation for NJC or function, introduction to branches of the NJC, international cooperation of the NJC. Functional position, the China National Judges College, and affiliation to the Supreme People's Court of People's Republic of China, is the main institution for China's judges' education and training. The NJC primarily undertakes trial-oriented training for presidents, vice presidents of China's high people's courts and intermediate people's courts, as well as senior judges from all levels of courts. The autumn scale of training judges of NJC in the past 20 years has witnessed more than 1,200 training courses with over 120,000 judges and court staff. The number of the classes of the class, the number of the people. The NJC appoint 300 part-time professors in China's courts at all levels and teaching and research institutions, including excellent senior judges, famous scholars in well-known universities such as Beijing University and Renmin University of China, leading experts from districts of Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and other countries such as Germany and USA. The justices from the Super People's Court of People's Republic of China are giving the lecture for Chinese judges. This is the part-time professor. There are 48 full-time teachers in NJC, including 14 professors, 22 associate professors, and 12 assistant professors. Campus, landscape, equipment, and facility in new campus NJC. The library area is 6 square meters. We have 25 branches. The number of the training is increasing year by year. Beijing branch. Tibet, autonomous region branch. Gansu Province branch. Opening ceremony for the training base of ethnic minority judges in Zhouqu, Gansu Province. The NJC of People's Republic of China, meanwhile, function as the international exchange center of the Shuhui People's Court. Concept internationally with them openly contemporary main direction saving the one belt, one road. Partner organizing seminars with judges of relevant countries aiming to establish and perfect dispute settlement mechanism along the one belt, one road, increasing assistant efforts for foreign judicial trainings and expanding the scope and scale of foreign judges training. Aim to build the NJC into the windows of international exchange and cooperation in judges training with foreign judges training resources by conducting extensive exchanges and cooperation with the judges training institution involved. Seminar for judges from Central Western of Asia. This year, from September 13th to September 28th, judges from 6 countries in Central, Western, and Western of Asia were invited to attend a 16-day seminar in NJC Beijing branch and the Zhouqu and the Dunhuang city in Gansu province. The seminar involved China's legal culture, the organization system, Chinese criminal justice system, civil trial system, administrative trial system, the legal system of intellectual property rights protection, the cooperation with judges from African countries. First event of the Supreme Court of Sudan and the 6th judge delegation visited NJC on September 28th this year. The seminar for judges from African countries. 28 judges from 6 countries in Africa countries attended 16-day seminar. The NJC in closely promotes international judicial exchanges and cooperation by making full use of its experience in information. Judge Richard Allen Posner from United States Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit was also invited to deliver lectures for judges and focus in Chicago through the network radio, opening up a new method for judges education and training as well as international judicial communication. The goals and measures of China's judicial reform. Goals. President Xi Jinping said, let the masses feel equality and justice in every judicial case. Reform goal. Efforts are to be made to depend the reform of the judicial system to construct fair, efficient, efficient and authoritative socialist judicial system so that the people's rights will be protected and the masses will feel equality and justice in every judicial case. One goal, transparency, fairness, justice, efficiency. The judicial reform provides new higher requirements of judicial capacity and professional conception to Chinese judges. Use of information technology, overall improvement of judicial capacity, improvement of judicial participation. Use of information technology, construction of 4 platform, establishment of internet court, and so on. Chief Justice Zhou Qiang said, judicial reform and information construction are bad slings and car wheels to push forward the work of the People's Court, achieving all service handled online, all process disclosed to the public as the law requires, and all-around intelligence service. This is Chinese referee instrument network. China Judgments Online was opened on July 1st, 2013, making clear that all effective judgment documents will be published on its unless otherwise provided by the law. It makes a crucial step of judicial ability of the People's Court. This is China Executive Information Network. It was opened on October 24th, 2013, which can promote the construction of the social credit systems and solve the difficulty of enforcement of judgments. This is China Trial Process Openet. China Judicial Process Information Online was opened on November 13th, 2014, making the judicial process visible, tangible, and possible to be experienced, so as to bring convenience for the parties and agents to participate in a legal proceeding and protect the parties' right to them. This is China Court Trial Public Net, the 4th largest judicial open platform established by the Supreme People's Court of People's Republic of China, was opened on September 27th, 2016, which makes the openness of trials more intuitive, solid, affectionate, and makes justice visual. The date on the picture is up to September 13th, 2017. On August 18th this year, a court of the internet was established in Hangzhou, Zhejiang province, which allows the parties filing the case online, submitting evidence online, and participating in a hearing online without leaving home. 5 minutes, submit complaint. overall improvement of judicial capacity, lifelong accountability system of case quality, strengthening the judicial reform in specific fields, handling relations between knowledge teaching and practical teaching. Improvement of the judicial participation conducted to improving judicial democracy and justice, advancing judicial credibility and capacity, pushing forward legal publicity and building legal society. The part 3, the influence of the China's judicial reform on judge training system, content, and method. Influence on judge training system, judge training content, judge training method. Graduate training. Clear division of work between National Judges College and the branches. The National Judges College is responsible for training all presidents, vice presidents, and senior judges of High People's Court and Intermediate People's Court in the country. The branches of the National Judges College in province, municipalities, and autonomous regions is responsible for the training of other judicial personnel in the respective regions. After the judicial reform, the National Judges College is aiming to strengthen the business guidance of the branches to achieve the unity and coordination of the training concepts, training materials, training methods, and other aspects. Classified training, organizing targets, training based on different training objects. Before the judicial reform, preparatory judge training, promotion training, continuation training, new court president, vice president training, etc. After the judicial reform, strengthen promotion training, continuation training, new court president, vice president training, while highlighting preparatory judge training, assistant training, the new specified number of the judges training. Furthermore, providing training opportunities for international judicial cooperation and increasing training cooperation in the nations alongside the One Belt, One Road and other countries and regions. Judicial reform puts forward higher demands on the professional accomplishment of judges. Strengthen the training of judges, professional ethics, and behavioral norms. Strengthen the training of judges' information technology competencies. Strengthen the training of judges' humanistic accomplishment and social experience. Strengthen the training of the trial controlling ability. Strengthen the training of new laws and the new difficult case. Improve of the teaching methods. Transferring from the talent mainstream of the lecture style teaching to the use of more interactive methods of teaching, such as the implementation of case teaching, on-site teaching, and judge teaching. Part 4, the method and improvement of China's judicial training. While NJC employs interactive methods of teaching, how NJC employs interactive methods of teaching. Interactive methods in the age of internet. Chinese ancient sage Confucius said, "Don't instruct others unless they want to understand. Don't inspire others unless they understand but cannot express." What the philosopher says. American philosophy and education duly advocates learn by doing, and the Chinese education Taoxing introduced dual thinking, which has been influencing Chinese education's practice. Training for judges in continuing judicial, which requires interactive methods. Chief Judges Zhou Qiang said, "Pay much attention to case research, connection different case and questions, forms of interactive teaching, case teaching, steps, case directing individual analysis, group work, presentation, comments by tutors, on-the-spot teaching, moot court. Moot court is a training that concludes comprehensive study of the trainings on the trial session of the mastery and understanding, focuses on training their participation to master the litigation process and to improve trial controlling ability. At the end of the moot court, senior judges and other experts will be invited to comment and guide the performance of the moot court. Question and answering. Debating. Topic selecting, debate, and the comments by experts. WeChat group. Through social software, mainline WeChat in China establishing a group in which students can communicate and explore with one another. Usually the teachers are also in this group, providing guidance and answering questions. Part 5, prospect for China's training for judges. Network training will be further developed. Training content will be further deepened. International communication and cooperation will be further strengthened. Development networking training. More various teaching. More use of interactive methods of teaching. Strengthen international communication and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Xiaomin Li. May I now call on Mr. Muhammad Shahid Shafi, Judge, Sindh Judicial Academy of Pakistan, to deliver his paper on judicial training in Pakistan.
Thank you, Organizer. I will be discussing 4 issues. Initially, the administrative setup of Judicial Academy in Pakistan. And secondly, the teaching methodologies which we follow in our academies. I will also discuss future innovation, what we are planning and what we intend to impart training. I shall also share the monitoring system of our training programs, and some proposed mechanism which we intend to implement in our academies. In Pakistan, there are 4 provinces: Sindh, Balochistan, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and Punjab. Every province has its own judicial academy. In the federal capital, it is Islamabad. Islamabad has a academy, Federal Judicial Academy, and it caters the need of the courts and judges who are housed in Islamabad. And at the same time, the Federal Judicial Academy serve the provinces as well. I am from Sindh Judicial Academy. In academies, in all 4 academies, the administrative setup is almost similar. So we have a board of governors, and then Director General of the Academy administers all affairs, and he is assisted by the faculty members and some supporting staff. I'm working as one of the faculty members. My Director General is sitting here. He is Judge of Supreme Court of Pakistan, retired Judge of Supreme Court of Pakistan. So our functions are mainly to impart training to the judicial officers, law officers. This extract I have obtained from our legislation. So judicial officer, law officer in the bar. Initially, we were focusing to impart training to the judicial officer, but subsequently we extended our program, and we started to impart training to the law officer, prosecutors, investigators, and advocates. In the recent past, we have invited final lawyer students as interns, and at the moment they are with us as interns. And this practice will continue with us. We also conduct and hold conferences, workshops. In the recent past, in May 2017, we arranged a conference and attempted to highlight our next 10 years plan. I will be sharing on the website. This plan is available. We are also conducting research on different areas. We have decided to know the causes of delay in courts. At the moment, we are conducting our quantitative research on the delay of cases in commercial courts. And hopefully, in the forthcoming annual conference, we will be presenting to our Chief Justice of Pakistan the outcome of that study. We are also, one of the functions is to publish journals. At present, we are working on it, and during the year we will publish a law journal as well. We have collected number of research papers, and these are going to be published during the period. So, teaching methodologies, this is the most important aspect, and most of the time we trainer adopt different methodologies. Most of the time we use this lecture system. Sometimes we ask to read books, sometimes we ask to group discussion, and sometimes in our academy we ask to conduct mock trials. And we also ask our trainees to write judgments and orders. presentations by trainers. This is a new strategy which we adopted in our academy. At the end of the training program, we ask the trainees to prepare a presentation on a particular subject. They study, they are given a week time, then they prepare the presentation and they present. And while they are present, while one of the trainee is presenting the presentation, the others put questions, and that was effective learning. Similarly, we assign homeworks, home assignment, and if there is a pre-service training, then we assign if we fix certain period, sometimes 1 week and sometimes 15 days period and they are asked to visit courts and submit their reports, observe what they are doing, what the judges are doing, and then they submit reports. In the year 2016, we have 149 judges with us, newly appointed judges, magistrate. So after completion of this training period, we conducted a small study. We placed a questionnaire and attempted to know what type of methodology were useful for them. And out of 149 judges, most of the judges appreciated the practical exercises, and practical exercises means we gave them certain situations, scenarios, and then we asked to write orders and judgments. So this exercises were very effective, and they feel that their skills were developed. And when they were given us the answer sheet, we used to scrutinize, and thereafter we used to give input that these are the weak areas of your orders. Similarly, mock trial. We asked them to arrange a mock trial, and a group of trainees were asked to act as advocate, act as prosecutor, act as judge, and they perform, and when they were performing, we guided that you missed this thing, you missed this thing. So that was a effective learning mechanism, and they appreciated. And now, after this study, we decided to change our teaching methodologies, and now we are emphasizing to impart training by using these two effective tools. As in the earlier session, one of our senior colleagues sitting here, he was saying that when we deliver lecture, only 10% or perhaps 20% remain with the listeners, and rest is gone. So we believe that now we are attempting to speak only 20% of the whole time, and rest of the time we want to involve our trainees in practical exercises. In the recent past, we designed a mock trial. We prepared a script, and a group of our internees were involved, and they were asked to act. And they acted, and the whole mock trial was recorded. Now it was done in-house, and we want to have similar videos in future, and it was tested. I will be sharing you in the next slides. Judgment writing. The judgment writing now in the month of January, we are expecting judges, and expecting 50 to 75 judges, newly appointed judges. So we are making preparation for them, and we are making and designing exercises and training material. We don't believe right now to deliver lectures. we will be compelling them to go through the certain quantum of files and write judgments and orders. In the last session, in the last 3-4 sessions, training programs, we asked all the trainees to prepare a presentation. So this presentation was very effective, and we noticed that we normally at 4 close our academy, but when we assigned this job, the trainees were found in library by 8 p.m., 7 p.m. So they were working, and by doing something, they learned a lot. Our colleagues from Punjab and KPK and Balochistan are here. We have close coordination, working related coordination, and we have decided to exchange our faculty members. Sometimes they will be visiting us, sometimes we will be visiting us. And by this way, we will be exchanging our methodologies and other materials. In this slide, I had a mock trial which we arranged. We involved our judicial office. We involved our attorneys, and they were asked to conduct a mock trial. They did, and it was very effective. Very effective. In our court, English is the court language, and the witnesses, and most of the time the advocate speaks in local languages as well. So in this mock trial, when the witness is speaking in local language, we attempted to in these videos, we attempted to show how the trial is conducted. And in future, we are going to plan to prepare similar videos through our professionals. And when we will be having these videos, then if I have been asked to go and take a lecture, so I would hardly be speaking too much. I will be using the techniques, the basic information, basic knowledge, and after that piece of knowledge which may consume more or less 10% time, and I will be showing a particular video that the things which I have told you will be conducted like that, and after observing that video, they will be asked now to start doing the same practice. So initially, the speaker will be speaking about the particular subject, and thereafter they will be shown the videos, the mock trial, and thereafter they will be asked to do it right now. So perhaps these 3 stages would cause to change their attitude and skills. improve their skills and change their attitude. In the recent past, we did another activity. At the end of the training program, there was a training on the rank laws. So at the end of the training program, we asked them to suggest what lacunas are defined in the existing legislation. So they suggested that this is the area this is the procedural issues which cause delays. So they identified substantial and procedural issues which they face. We believe that the judges who are technocrats and they know how to run the court, and when they feel difficulty, they are the best person to place solutions. So we invited their comments and they suggested that law is to be amended like that, that. So we prepared such a summary and we are working with the close coordination with our law department. Now we are in the process of sending proposed amendment to the law department so that the law may also be improved. Mere training to judges perhaps would not be sufficient until and unless our substantial and procedural laws are updated, and they may meet the need of the time. In the recent past, we formally coordinated with other provinces. Provinces means the Punjab Judicial Academy and the KPK. We observed that we are making many efforts and the people are also making few efforts. So why not we join and we share our efforts so that the resource with limited resources we may deliver many things. So we have formally executed memorandum of association, and we are planning research studies jointly. Training to the bar is one of the important aspects. In our jurisdictions, we notice that the bar is quite harsh with the bench. So we decided to interact them. We decided to call them in the Judicial Academy and to not only to teach the law, but as well as the ethics. So we are attempting to change their behavior as well, because most of the time the judges, the advocates who are working as lawyers, at a particular point of time they are elevated, they join judicial services. So their such attitude would affect us. So we are making an attempt to coordinate, to impart training program for them as well. And likewise, the law students who are final year law students, we are also inviting them. Our legal judicial system is not so effective, and there in law colleges most of the time this lecture. So we are attempting to call final year law students in our academies, and we are trying to impart training to them, and it is purely skill-based training. We hardly speak too much. We only ask them to do this. In the recent past, we and the KPK started online training program. We were a very senior judge of Supreme Court of Pakistan was in our academy, and he was in our academy and addressing to the judges in Karachi. And on the other side, in another few judges who were sitting at 200 kilometers away, and another group of other province, KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, they were sitting about 1,000 kilometers away. We all were online, and the Honorable Judge was speaking, and we were benefiting from the views of the Honorable Judge Saab. So this is the new the initiative which we did. Most of the time we talk about the curriculum. We believe that curriculum and the training manual, two different things. Identifying few topics is not sufficient. Perhaps we need to design some material, some document which should include everything. We are in the process of designing 6 training manuals, and that manuals would be part of presentation, exercises, ethics course judgment, and everything would be there. And when the speaker will be coming, and we will be providing them those material, and he will be asked to follow these. And he may be at liberty to add few things, but at least to cater those which we have identified. So this sort of materials is being prepared. So far training need and is concerned, we work with the close coordination with the member inspection team. In our High Court, there is a member inspection team who visits the district courts and call their judgments and go through that, and after having perusal, he suggests that this is the weak area. So he identified, and we arrange training programs according to the needs which he identified. And most of the time, the district judge of the district, he supervised 30 to 40 judges. He is asked to identify the issues which he is facing. So on his advice, we design our training programs. We evaluate training program, trainings, and trainers as well. Though the assessment, monitoring, and evaluation of trainers is not so effective in our academy, but I was noticing that the Punjab and KPK have the very effective tools for monitoring and assessments. We are requesting you to share with us, please. Our achievements, we in the recent past had a conference 2027, we planned 2027, 10 years plan, and we identified all the areas of justice sector, not only to cater the need of the judiciary, but at the same time we also try to cater needs of other stakeholders. We believe that we cannot run if we do not associate other stakeholders. In the recent past, we have decided to convert our Judicial Academy into Center of Excellence. And our proposal to amend the law was placed before the Board of Governors. They have approved, and now the draft is with the Law Department, and in future we will be, our academy will be converted into a Center of Excellency, and we will be having an authority to give, we will be degree awarding institution in the near future. Recently, we suggested this new academy, and this is in the process of construction and plan. This is our plan. At the moment, we do not have sufficient place, but the government has allocated certain funds. This has been approved, and it is going to be constructed within a period of 2 months. And this would have 3 sections. This is administration, this is academic block, and this is the law university. So we will be having 3 different components, and in this, at the same time, when we will be having administration and research, as well as court annexed mediation. The Judicial Academy is attempting to introduce court annexed mediation, because we have been attempting to introduce area in our country, but we could not succeed. So now we decided to introduce court annexed mediation. In Punjab, this idea was introduced, and they are successfully doing. So we are attempting to borrow their idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. We still have time for the open forum. You may hand in your written questions or you may use the microphone. Kindly identify yourself and the speaker to whom the question will be addressed. Yes, lady.
This is Huma Chugtai from Pakistan, Federal Judicial Academy. My question is directed towards the Philippines presentation. I just wanted a bit of a clarification, please. You talked about the career stages. I would like to know how frequent are the trainings for each level in 1 year?
Well, the judges, the orientation for newly appointed judges is done as soon as we get a quota of new judges appointed. So usually we wait for 30, is that correct? 20? 20. So once we have 20 newly appointed judges, we conduct a program for them. As for that is flexible. That we wait for the appointments to come out from the from the executive department. The president is the one who appoints all judicial officers. And then for the enhancement program, that's the second level. We call it the Judicial Career Enhancement Program. The ideal is that on the second year, you would have already attended an enhancement program. So every second year. Then the third level would be on your 5th year. Because supposedly in the Philippines, if you're following the judicial track, you get a promotion after you've spent 5 years in a particular position. So upon appointment for the newly appointed, and then on the second year for our judicial career enhancement, and then on the 5th year again if you're still in the same position.
So it's all flexible, mostly.
Not really flexible because once you're appointed, your years will already be counted, so there's no flexibility in that. But the flexibility comes in on your availability. Like for example, the Judicial Career Enhancement Program on your second year will be done by regions. We cannot do it all at the same time because there are at least 2,500 trial court judges. So if you're not available for the first, which is for example for your region, you can make arrangements with the Judicial Academy if you have a justifiable excuse for skipping your region's training to join another region in their training. Anyway, the programs will be more or less uniform. You're welcome.
From Federal Judicial Academy, Pakistan. The main goal of such judicial trainings or judicial education is to impart knowledge, honing of skills, and change in attitude. After a trainee judge leaves your academy or training institute, what methods do you employ for assessing or evaluating on-job behavioral change of the trainee? My question to all the three honorable speakers, particularly ma'am from Philippines. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question. Well, before we revised our curriculum, the only assessment that we were able to do was an assessment during the program conduct itself. So we'll hand out forms to the participants and ask them, as far as they were concerned, how effective were the methods used in delivering the content, and how relevant were the substance or the subjects taken up. But we did not have any post-training assessment. But now with the revised curriculum, that is one of our emphasis, that we have to do periodic assessments after the conduct of the training, because precisely we want to know not just how effective the application of the knowledge is, but if there has been a change in the attitude of the judges. Because we don't want it to be just the external, we also want to see a change in the values that our judges carry throughout their judicial career. Like when they start out as judges, there will be a different set of values, but as they progress, we also envision an increase or a deepening of the values that we try to instill in them as judicial officers. So that is now in implementation under our revised curriculum. So we're going to have a post-assessment on the 3rd month, and then we'll have another one after a semester, that's on the 6th month, and then we envision another one after a year. And that will also provide the Judicial Academy with a barometer if we really need to do already a follow-up or an enhancement on the 2nd year, or should it be after the 1st year? So that's what we are trying to do.
Thank you.
So far in Pakistan is concerned, in Sindh is concerned, we do have close coordination with the district and session judge and the MIT, member inspection team, where the audits and judgments are scrutinized. So they give us some. We are revising our assessment mechanism, and we are in the process of designing some forms, and these forms will be circulated, and the trainees will be assessed.
Thank you.
I'm Nadine Chima from Pakistan, Punjab Judicial Academy. My question is that you are imparting, while following the KSA, knowledge, skill, and attitude, how much percentage you have allocated to the knowledge and skills and attitude, and connected with this, and how you are assessing particularly the attitude of the participant after their completion. Please.
We do the apportionment or the proportionate division of the time for the programs between knowledge and values, ethics and attitude, and skills as they progress through the ladder. So when you're a beginning judge or a newly appointed judge, we have more time for the substance. So that's the knowledge part. So we need more time for substantive law, for procedural law, and of course for skills. But as you progress through the ladder, we go the inverse way. So you less time for updates on law and updates on cases decided by the highest court, but more time for skills training, more time for values, more time for ethics, and social context. That's how we do it. And then as to how we gauge the attitude, the change in the attitude, if there is at all, in our formulated new method of evaluation and monitoring, we will have direct response forms for the court users, the lawyers, and the litigants themselves who are non-lawyers. We will also solicit responses from the from chosen experts who will be sent or invited to go and observe the court proceedings, so that they can give their inputs, their valuable inputs specifically for our specialized courts. So our cybercrime courts, our commercial courts, we want these experts to be able to observe firsthand the proceedings conducted by these specialized courts and to be able to give their input as to the specific changes in the curriculum with regard to these specialized courts. Thank you.
I'm Sri Krishna Mulmi from National Judicial Academy, Nepal. I want to direct my question to presenter from Sindh Judicial Academy, Pakistan. As you said that you are making lawyers in your stakeholder to be imparted from your academy. In our experience, that National Judicial Academy of Nepal has been imparting training for judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. And in the context of lawyer, that there are a large number of lawyers. There are more than 15,000 or 20,000 lawyers across Nepal. Since being a large number and given the limited resources with the National Judicial Academy, we are not being able to impart training to all the judges. And they are given the limited resources, limited human resources, and everything limited. We are not able to impart training for them, and it's a giving challenge for us to cover all the things, and so that we are taking out from our jurisdiction, so that they would have another own academy. So this is the, we are in making, inclusion, we are excluding them.
Yeah.
How you won't be given in your countries also there's a large number of maybe lawyers. In how you will be managing in the your future? Is there any plan to convert these things or not?
There is a plan. While deciding this issue, we thought that the person who is of the age of 40, we cannot change his mind. So we started to pick a very new blood. And we are investing on him. We are not making an effort for the whole of the bar. We are selecting those who have a few years experience, 1 to 2 years. Our new group is unexpected, and we have all their CVs, their experience and qualification. Then we will pick that one who is of 2 years, 3 years experience. We will try to change his mind. Rest are out of our jurisdiction. Thank you.
I'm Cheryl from Singapore. I have a question directed at the representative from Pakistan as well. Just now you mentioned that there is a member inspection team which goes through the judgments of judges and see if training programs can be developed. I wonder how this impacts on the assessment of the judges' performance and perhaps the promotion aspects as well, because if the judge is wrong on the point of law, is that identified and then publicized to the other judges to say, not to make the same mistake? Is that part of the program? And also how that coexists with judicial independence and autonomy over the discretion to decide on your case?
In fact, we do not specifically pick a particular person. We make an attempt to identify a group. For instance, in the recent past, we assessed that the cases relating to rent are being delayed. And we identified our member inspection team perused the judgments of different judges, and he identified that the worth of the judgments is not up to the mark. They need certain guidelines. So we picked and gave them training, and sometimes the concerned district and session judge who administratively handled them, he advised and he suggests that this area is of my judicial officer required guidelines. So we provide and design courses for them.
I am Judge J.J. Mendoza from the Philippines. I have a question for Justice Singh. Justice Singh, being a judicial educator that you are, and considering that in the Philippines we have several specialized courts, we have family courts, we have environmental courts, we have agrarian courts, and all of these courts are trying drug cases. Do you prefer to have these courts existing, or just a court of general jurisdiction trying different cases? And what challenges does the Academy face in having these all specialized courts existing at the same time?
Judge Mendoza, it's not a matter of preference for me. It's really a thing that we have to deal with, because first of all, the laws that have been passed by Congress were the ones that mandated the creation of family courts, specialized family courts, and specialized drugs courts. And of course, administrative issuances of the Supreme Court also resulted in the designation of special commercial courts, special environmental courts, special election courts. So you have all these specializations. As far as the challenges to the Judicial Academy with regard to delivering program content that will address these specializations, we have coped, I think, remarkably well, considering the requirements, the big requirements. This is where the donors come in, and earlier on there was a discussion about donor-driven programs and the independence of the judiciary with regard to receiving donations for conducting judicial training. Fortunately for us in the Judicial Academy, we've managed to impose our own rules when it comes to donor-driven programs. They do not get to dictate to the Judicial Academy the content or the methodology, although they always have a subject matter that they want to fund. For example, children's rights, anti-trafficking programs. So that is fine with us because that is very, very general, and anyway, those things are really under our coverage. But as far as when to do it, how to do it, and what to include, that remains solely determined by the academy. So we're able to manage the independent side of it, and it's because of this donations that we are able to do these specialized content programs, and so it's really essential that we maintain that relation with these international organizations, local organizations as well, so that we can continue these programs. So, well, the thrust really is to have all the judges able to dispose of any type of case. That was how the judiciary, the Philippine judiciary, at least started. But we cannot avoid it with the way that the country is geographically situated and located. There will have to be some specialization, especially with the regionalization and the islands that we have. In terms of technology, also we cannot give technology to all our courts, to all 2,500 trial courts, all at the same time. So we're struggling with that. So we really have to focus on certain hubs and train them as far as these new developments are concerned. Train them first and have them try these cases first, because they're the ones we can train for the meantime. So we can really do an all-out nationwide one-sitting training for all of them, or specialization programs for all of them. So that is more the product of the number of courses that we have and the kind of geography that divides our islands.
Excuse me, considering that's already past 3 o'clock, the chair is now inclined to conclude the session. A round of applause for our 3 speakers. They may entertain questions during the break. Refreshment will be served outside the plenary hall, and the next set of concurrent sessions will start at 3:30 p.m. Thank you for your participation.